So welcome everyone to this EPP Group talk here in the European Parliament in the Studio 1 on intercultural and religious dialogue. Why does it matter? We have the co-chair of the EPP Group Working Group on Intercultural and Religious Dialogue, Jan Olbrycht from Poland. You're also EPP Group Vice Chair. And we're looking at a lot of events that already happened this year alone. This has been for 24 years you've been together as a working group. And this year there were meetings with the Council of Europe, with the Conference of Islam in Central and Eastern Europe. You discussed the Future of Europe conference. You met the Patriarch of Constantinople. You've had hearings here in the European Parliament on the Balkans and on Nigeria, where Christian farmers were attacked. So you've been very, very active. And we're looking ahead to this Vienna conference in December. Every year you have this conference on intercultural and religious dialogue. What do you expect to see from this December conference in Vienna?
If you allow me, I would just go a little bit to the past because it will allow to understand more the situation in our conference in Vienna. You know, for example, we are in the European Parliament. I mean, we are, for example, the Polish delegation. I'm Polish, so we are in this Parliament from 2004. So it means 19 years. So it's the working group started before, and it was very important for us when we came here. What was the reason to have this kind of working group? And we discovered that for the EPP, what was the most important at that time, 24 years ago, was to find the way of organizing the dialogue inside the Christian world. Inside the Christian world,
right?
Mainly between the Catholics and Orthodox. So this was the beginning. This is what we discovered when we came here. And we discovered that probably at that time, when the EPP, which is the Christian Democratic Group, was trying to find a way to organize the dialogue with the churches. So that's why when we started to do it, we from Central and Eastern Europe in 2004, we took it from our colleagues from the past, and we were trying to continue this kind of activity and broaden the scope. I mean, not only with Orthodox and the others. So, and to keep one thing which was important for them in the beginning. You know, the notion of interreligious dialogue was a very long tradition. And this is mainly about the dialogue between different religions. It's like the church's religion. So we are not priests. We are not the representative of the church. We are politicians. We are coming from the concrete background. But what was very important for us from the very beginning was to have the dialogue with churches and with religious communities. It means we, politicians, we are discussing it because we think that the churches are an important actor of public life.
Because, for a lot of people's daily lives,
absolutely,
it's a very important part.
So for us, it's a partner for dialogue. So we decided to talk to make the dialogue with them. And to discuss not the theological problems. It's not our problem. We are not discussing the problems between different religions and who is right, who is wrong, who is the better position, worse position. No. We are discussing and we have the dialogue with them. This is what when you ask about Vienna. So this is now the tradition that once a year we have the big event, which is the dialogue with the churches and communities, and this every year event is specially concentrated on something which is important from the political and social view, and we are discussing with churches and religious communities these important topics which are important in this very moment. So in Vienna, probably we will be concentrated on the situation in Europe, and especially on the situation and war and consequences of war in Ukraine.
And I'd like to also introduce György Hölvényi from Hungary. You are also a co-chair of the EPP Group Working Group on Intercultural and Religious Dialogue. We're just looking ahead to Vienna. I want to talk about the accomplishments over the last 24 years, but I think Vienna is very important. What would you like to see happen in Vienna? in December.
Yeah, that's my colleague and friend Jan Olbrycht mentioned. You know, it's a long tradition, and this is a continuity. It's a continuity, but we have to see that we are in the middle of a crisis, and all the time before we try to give a reaction, and we try to see and present the reaction for the other colleagues, you know, they are interested, the position of the churches and religious representatives.
That's what you were sounding out. You're constantly doing that with all those events that you've had so far this year.
Exactly.
But December is especially important.
Yeah,
because
the special, it's an annual dialogue.
Yeah.
That is, I would say this is a little bit summary. Of, it's already Advent time, it's before Christmas, and then it's a little bit summary of our work, And of course, in this year, the war in Ukraine, the situation, the consequences, very serious, very serious, and of course, there has an influence of the daily life of the churches as well, and of course, the communication, you know, and we are European citizens, the member of the churches, the member of the different kinds of faith-based organizations. And of course, these leaders, they have a special way, but their own responsibility, not only for their own people, but for the welfare of the society. And from this aspect, for example, the refugees. The consequences of the refugees. How many? 3 million people are in Poland.
In Poland
we
alone,
have about 100,000. You know, these registered refugees. But only Europe, other part in Europe. What kind of consequences in family life, in education, in healthcare, in social life? And this is a question we need the reflection in a very practical term from the churches.
So. Let's now look back a little bit, because I wanted to look ahead to December, because that's going to be very, very important. That's on the radar right now. But over the past 24 years of this intercultural working group, intercultural, interreligious working group, what's one accomplishment that you are proud of that it's done?
Oh, yeah, that was a fantastic summary. Yeah, that
actually,
is, that was a fantastic summary. I wouldn't repeat it. This is clear. Now, I think it's very important that we were able to make a huge change. At the beginning, it was the interreligious dialogue with, this is very important, you know, with the churches, but first between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church.
Right.
That was the start of the story, I was here, the young guy, stagiaire, in the middle of 90s, I was surprised about it. Was after the accession of Greece, there came first the Greek Orthodoxy. And that was one thing. And we were able, after the enlargement 2004, make a huge extension. That means that's the first with the Jewish community, Jewish communities, and after with the Muslim communities. And I think we were, if we can say we are proud about, that is really was able to bring the people a little bit together. To see that we have the common responsibility and make credible that the EPP as a place, that we can work together and a little bit. We promote this kind of dialogue, but this is a specification of the EPP. No other group in the European Parliament do the same.
Which is important to point out because a lot of people say, well, you're a Christian democratic party group, but you're more than that.
This is really more. It's not about Christian democracy. Of course, it's based on the social teaching of the churches and through the foundations. And by the way, that is very important. You know that we have the Article 17 for the Lisbon Treaty. It forced the European institution to get a dialogue with the churches and religious institutions. But here is very important, and that back to the topic, the concrete, that, okay, we have a dialogue, but what's about? What's about dialogue? And we are really proud about bring the people together, and really we tried very consistently in the group, and there's a special culture of the group, to really to move for understanding each other. Not easy to understand each other, from understanding really to cooperation.
Right, and even within within the faiths, right? Yeah, and I mean,
exactly.
in this conflict in Ukraine, there is this conflict within Christianity as well, isn't there?
Yeah, but you know, we have been from the very beginning in the close contact with the Ukrainian Church, Orthodox Church, and we were following the changes. We were changes which have very long, we can say, tradition, and the Ukrainian Church wanted to separate from the influence of Moscow, and of course we were very close to this process. I remember when I was one of my first visits with the dialogue was in Kiev, and we have been invited by the Orthodox Church in Kiev to discuss the religious problem. But to discuss the role of churches but of course situation in Europe, etc. I remember it was a time of President Yushchenko, and when he came to this meeting with the Patriarch of Ukraine from the, of course, Moscow Church, and it was someone from the who was sent by Moscow Church, young priest, very well prepared, with the computer sitting and writing down all the remarks. And of course, Yushchenko said that we are waiting for the moment that our church, according to the Orthodox tradition, will be the national dimension. I mean, like Ukrainian church and not the Moscow church. And I remember that this young priest from Moscow said, I send you my best wishes from Patriarch from Moscow, and I can assure that we will never agree. So I remember this was very surprising. But the history showed that this is different. And now we have the Ukrainian Catholic Church, which is linked to the Constantinople. And the relation between the Ukrainian Church and Moscow Church are very, very difficult, especially during the war. And this is about the influence, it's about the faith, but it's also about the real estate, about churches, etc., etc. So what makes the whole thing even more complicated. This is among Christians.
That's that alone, because we also are addressing issues within Islam as well.
Yeah,
right?
so
that's one of the
this
challenges.
situation in Ukraine, it's very painful. You know, where we try to get an image. You know, that's the Christians is united if it's about the real values. Yeah, but it's much more complicated.
More complicated. And then let's talk about Islam too, about the dialogue with, because you have done this this year already.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That's
yeah.
One of the,
Look, Islam. It's so it's like a summary. It doesn't exist. You know, we have the different kind of Islamic communities. Very simple. The Sunni or Shia or different kind of that. But that was really for us as a fantastic positive experience. The openness from those leaders. They are interested in the dialogue.
Right.
It's not everybody. But it's clear there's a lot of leaders, the chain of leaders in the different part of the world, they're absolutely interested about this kind of dialogue. And one of the really the best tradition of our group, that is really, we started together with Jan, that we are inviting regularly the Islamic, the OEC, that's the organization of the Islamic countries, ambassadors to a dialogue. And that's, if you say, to come together 50 countries, representatives, nothing happens, only blah, blah. No, it was not the case. We have all the time fantastic, good discussions, good discussion.
It shouldn't be us and them. It should be work together.
It was absolutely,
on a lot of key issues.
We have to be very careful with the protocol, of course. But otherwise, it was a very open discussion, reaction over the feedback of how they see the European, I would say, develop in the society.
Very, very, very quickly, how can this dialogue help to prevent or fight extremism, radicalization within the religions? And I'm just not just one, but plural.
The dialogue is something which is very symbolic. Of course, it gives the knowledge and to understand each other. But what is the most important is what György said. This is a question of trust. I mean, when you trust someone and you show that he can trust you, in dialogue, what is the most important is when you want to have the openness, you have to confirm that you don't know. So someone who is leading dialogue says, I need the dialogue with you because I don't know. This is the lack of something. So I need you for the dialogue. And so when we discuss with them, it means that we show our openness, we show our goodwill, we want to trust you, etc. Of course, this doesn't change the world. But of course, it helped to discuss, for example, the question with the Islamic states, what about the persecution of Christians in their states?
Too, that
is a very difficult debate.
As you talked about Nigeria during that.
Yeah, we are discussing with them and in a very open way.
Yeah, good.
So it means that, but you have to have someone you can trust, and he can trust you that it's not, you are not attacking him, but you don't hide your convictions. So we take care about the Christians, and of course the other religions as well. So for this is the importance of this kind of dialogue. This is a political activity, but it has a real influence on reality.
I'm so sorry, but we're running right out of time. If we could have just a quick word right at the end. And I think we should look ahead to December and this conference in Vienna. What will be a success to you from that conference?
Success, we have really useful feedbacks from the representative of the churches concerning this crisis,
Right.
And we can have maybe only 2-3 sentences, good for sentences about the future, and really keep the reality, political relevant hope. That's we have a hope. It's missing. We are responsible for own people in the countries, but we have to transfer this kind of hope. Hope it should be very, very realistic. That is maybe my expectation. Very spontaneous way.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Jan, final word.
Yeah, very often someone who doesn't understand the parliamentary work thinks that resolutions of the parliament doesn't change anything. And next we have, for example, the priests from Africa. We have the people from Muslim, etc. And they said, please prepare good resolution, because what really counts, the people are waiting for your position. If you think that it doesn't count, you are wrong. You are wrong. This is what we were waiting for: your position, your feeling, etc. Because it can help us. It can help us at home with the minorities. It can help us with the immigrants, etc. So that's why we are doing our job. And we know that this is not the practical in terms of pragmatic elements, but for us, good resolution and position is very pragmatic.
And so we do hope that this conference will be a success. I think that's very important to keep that dialogue going. That's what this Vienna 9 to 10 December conference is about, the EPP Group Intercultural Dialogue with Churches and Religious Institutions. And you'll both be there, I assume, along with other members of the EPP Group. Keep an eye on @EPP Group for any kind of social networking, and eppgroup.eu for any further developments. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk next time.